I consider myself a happy man. Always been happy, always been optimistic, always had faith in life.
Pablo Escobar had an impact on the whole city. I saw a father who was deeply loved by the people.
Are you the Robin Hood of Antioquia?
The dark and criminal power of drug trafficking has reached our country.
We have to create enormous chaos. Then they'll beg for peace.
Escobar was killing magistrates, journalists, policemen.
I'll kill each and every one of them from the jungle. In the end, the ones who will lose will be them.
Colombia's public enemy #1 is terrorist Pablo Escobar, who mercilessly and without contemplation kills innocent men, women, and children.
I thought he was immortal.
This is Pablo Escobar from Medellin speaking. My nationality ID number is 8345766. Record my voice. Otherwise, they will say it was any clown that called. This way, there will be no doubt I called.
He used to say that he needed to have 1,000,000 pesos by the age of 30 because it wasn't worth being in this world without money.
My dad started smuggling appliances, but soon he realized that cocaine was much more profitable and occupied less space, and his business was more profitable when he began to export to the U.S.
In those days, drug trafficking was not a sin in Colombia. Everybody was involved with drug trafficking.
Magazines even ran articles about how glamorous cocaine consumption was at big parties in the U.S. My dad took advantage of the moment, which allowed him the opportunity to amass a fortune very quickly. Pablo Escobar had an impact on the whole city. He was like a god. When I met him face to face, I thought he'd be arrogant, proud, cold. But instead, he was a great human being. I remember that day. He was eating roasted chicken. He grabbed a piece with his hand and offered it to me.
I began to think drug trafficking was a bad thing when 4 or 5 people began to say it was bad. The press also started to dig, and they started chasing us. I sincerely thought it was a good thing.
It was in June of 1976 when they started associating his name to the drug trade and he became known to the public. He was captured with 19 kilos of cocaine.
Well, he had bought a few kilos of cocaine or cocoa paste from Ecuador.
He was free a few months later.
The people knew he was a mobster, a drug dealer, but they accepted it in a positive way. The violence had yet to start.
A magazine estimates your fortune at $5 billion.
That seems like a number that you would hear in a fairy tale.
How large is your fortune?
There's a saying that goes, when it comes to wealth and righteousness, believe only half of a half.
His greatest extravagance was the Hacienda Nápoles. It was insane. It was truly enormous. He built 70 kilometers of roads to travel around the entire place. Lakes? He built 20 lakes, big ones. He built a landing strip to get around more easily with his family. It was, let's say, a blank check signed for everyone. Whatever you wanted, you had.
One time we traveled to the United States. A relaxed tourist trip with the family. We went to see several zoos in Dallas. And the next thing I know, he said he was going to buy rhinos, zebras, and who knows what else.
He brings a zoo. He smuggles it.
Before we knew it, 12,000 people were visiting every weekend. Pablo greatly enjoyed watching the people come to see something that they had never seen in their lives, not even on television.
It was a life of opulence, of splurging.
La Hacienda Nápoles was a paradise of evil. You could feel the presence of both evil and adventure. Lots of cocaine came out of there heading towards the United States. There were a lot of bodies. A lot of torture took place there. But the boss never allowed any of the bodies to be buried there.
We were in the middle of a conversation when they suddenly brought in a man who worked for him. Apparently this guy had stolen 3 to 4 million pesos, something like that. I don't know. He had his feet tied together, and even though he was all tied up, he pushed him into the pool. And the guy drowned. As he pushed him into the pool, he screamed. This is what happens to those who steal from Escobar.
As a young boy, I accompanied him everywhere, to poor neighborhoods, health center openings. What I saw was a father that was deeply loved by the people.
In Las Flores neighborhood in Envigado, Stadium number 12 was officially opened. The lighting here was donated by Civismo en Marcha and Pablo Escobar Gaviria.
In 1983, we started a tree planting program for every neighborhood in the municipality. A very special greeting to all the athletes and the youth from the humble neighborhoods, and my gratitude to everyone who participated in the actual construction work on this field. Thanks a lot.
He built soccer fields, he built communities, he did all this stuff.
He put in the bleachers and put in the lights. There were about 7,000 people. The field was dark. Escobar comes in, waves, 7,000 people shouting, "Pablo, Pablo, Pablo."
Live from Envigado, let's hear it for Pablo Escobar Gaviria after that wonderful kick. A huge round of applause for Mr. Pablo Escobar Gaviria.
He was featured in an issue of Semana magazine, labeling him as the new Robin Hood. That was the first sign of the existence of that character.
Are you the Robin Hood of Antioquia?
That's a description that seems very interesting. People know that he fought for and defended the humble masses.
One time he arrived at my house and said he had been at the Moravia landfill. He said, "I'm going to build a neighborhood for those people. I will get them out of the slums."
I have very good friends in the church, bishops, priests, as well as doctors and lawyers in humble neighborhoods. But my best friends are those in the slum community of the city dump. We have started the construction of a neighborhood to solve the problem of slums in the city of Medellin.
He brought all the people from the dump here and gave them their houses. Who does that? I ask you as journalists, who does that? Nobody. Him. Only him.
In some way, for people that were desperate in life, I guess, he gave them some hope.
Ready? Let's have a round of applause for Pablo!
Obviously, he tried to play the role of being a Robin Hood.
A neighborhood he promoted in name only, because in effect he neither created nor financially supported it. He called 150 to 200 people and forced them to donate money so he could take the credit for it.
His family would like to believe that there was this other positive side to the man. Frankly, I don't believe it.
He took pleasure in giving, in sharing.
No gift came free from Escobar. If he gave you a gift, you were expected to respond in kind.
I know that at Christmas, he would buy gifts, thousands of gifts for people all over Medellin in the areas, the barrios, places close to the Hacienda Nápoles. Why was he doing this? So people would tell him, hey, there are cops around here, and they're looking for you, because he was buying protection. But they didn't see it that way. They saw him as a, you know, as a Santa Claus, you know? So.
I think those who venture to say he did it out of self-interest, political clout, and power are wrong. They did not truly know his heart.
I consider myself a happy man. I've always been happy and optimistic. I've always had faith in life.
One of his dreams was to do what politicians wouldn't do, and dedicate his fortune to doing so.
Once he called me and asked, can you help me with my campaign? I'm getting into politics.
I like the idea of him getting into politics. He said he wanted to fulfill his duty to society.
What is your political ideology?
Well, our movement, the main ideology for our movement, is civic duty, nationalism, social programs, ecology, and sports. We want, through our program, to call on all citizens to be good citizens.
Actually, the plazas were full. I didn't understand. I wondered, how did this happen? How will this play out politically? It was very impressive. He moved masses.
My father learned of the existence of Pablo Escobar in the 1982 campaign, when he was a candidate for president. He learned that Jairo Ortega, a politician from Antioquia who wanted to participate in the new Liberal Party, was inviting Pablo Escobar to run as his alternate on the new Liberal Party ballot. The coordinator of the new Liberal Party called my father and told him that Mr. Escobar was a very strange man who had a lot of money. He donated money to the campaigns, but they didn't know where his money was coming from. Then my father, on a campaign trip to Medellin, makes a public speech where he states that Pablo Escobar and Jairo Ortega are not on the new Liberal Party ballots for Congress. Thus, he expels them publicly from the party.
I want to tell you that Galan's political movement and the aristocracy will tremble. With your support, we will crush the puppets and the political ragdolls created by Colombian oligarchy. Thank you very much.
A very important political leader came up to him and said these words: Pablo, with the power you have, and the money you have, and your ability, you could be president of this country. Pablo wanted to be president.
What do they decide? To get on the official ballots of the Liberal Party. It's through those official ballots that Pablo Escobar lands in Congress.
Long live our friend Pablo Escobar! Long live the Liberal Party!
The people voted for us and chose us to represent them in the nation's Congress.
Pablo Escobar was an ambitious man. Real power is not in guns or money, but in politics.
Obviously, he enjoyed a quick ascent in politics. He was loaded with money.
Those congressional friends ask for money, so we have to give. Consider them extra contributions, because all these politicians ask, so we have to give to all of them.
Rodrigo Lara Bonilla is appointed Secretary of Justice.
After the appointment of Rodrigo Lara as Secretary of Justice, during the presidency of Belisario Betancourt, Rodrigo Lara initiated some very heated debates over what was considered as laundering money.
There is going to be a big national debate regarding money laundering. Your name has been linked to this debate.
I wouldn't call it money laundering. I'd call it amnestied money.
The country must know the truth about certain powerful fortunes whose owners believed that the asset amnesty law meant a pardon for crimes committed to achieve their fantastic fortunes.
Can you state for a fact that your money has no connection to drug trafficking?
I've always stated that my money is not linked to drugs.
Rodrigo Lara gets into a confrontation with Pablo Escobar in Congress. Having a drug lord like Escobar in Congress created a volatile challenge for Colombian democracy.
The chamber is debating over funds of dubious origin that have entered Colombian politics, generating enormous scandal. Representative Ortega, whose alternate is Pablo Escobar, spoke in the session.
I have a very respectful question for the Secretary of Justice.
When he starts to point fingers, they set him up, accusing him of receiving $1 million pesos to finance his campaign.
It was $1 million pesos in a check to the name of Rodrigo Lara. I will disclose the process of how this check was deposited and the reach it had.
The Secretary of Justice was trapped by the evidence presented by my chamber colleague, Jairo Ortega Ramirez.
Rodrigo Lara Bonilla's reaction to this act, this debate, was to intensify his attack on the drug traffickers.
I was the president of the chamber, and unexpectedly, during a debate, a good number of Pablo Escobar's armed bodyguards infiltrated the chamber. It was a tense day.
There are investigations in the United States that I cannot reveal here tonight in the chamber regarding illegal activities by Dr. Ortega's alternate.
At that moment, he adopted a suicidal attitude.
That was a declaration of war.
The Secretary of Justice accused me in an unfair way. He lied when he said Pablo Escobar had a criminal record with the U.S. government. At this time, I will show you my official passport and can prove to you how the government of the U.S. granted me a visa to visit that country. Furthermore, I am a frequent visitor of that nation.
In the chambers of Congress, Escobar wasn't a great speaker. So Secretary Lara Bonilla and his party crushed him verbally in front of the entire Congress and in front of the public. They revoked his parliamentary immunity.
My hopes are that there will not be a confrontation among the Colombian people. I search for peace. I have always preached peace, and I have longed for peace. If I ever desired to enter politics, it was because I felt the need to serve the community. But I have determined to retire definitively from politics because I consider that in order to serve the community, I can do it through my civic works without having to participate in politics.
One day Escobar told me, commenting on his time in politics, he said, "Man, I ended up inside the real mafia. Now, those people are the real mafia."
And Lara wasn't convinced, so he kept searching, until he finally finds Tranquilandia. They discover 13.8 metric tons of coke, more than 6 labs. I don't know how many airstrips. All his planes, big ones, small ones. It was an entire industry.
I interviewed Rodrigo Lara for my television show, and we spoke of death.
I will remain protected in any case because I think somehow they will try to get even for what I've done to put criminals in their place.
We'll see what happens in the next few days.
At 7:30 on the evening of April 30th, 1984, a gunman using a machine gun assassinated the Minister of Justice, Rodrigo Lara.
I knew something bad had happened. I asked, "Where's my dad? Where's my dad? Where's my dad?" You'll see him soon, you'll see him soon, you'll see him soon, you'll see him soon. We arrived in Neiva, large crowd, lots of people, lots of people. My question was, who's in the coffin, who's in the coffin, who? I didn't understand, until a cousin finally. He took me, raised me up. That's when the crying started. Endless crying.
Colombia will hand over felons who commit crimes in other countries when solicited, so that they can be punished in an exemplary way as part of this universal operation against an attack that is also universal.
Belisario Betancourt, the president at the time, at Rodrigo Laro's funeral at the wake, announced that he would fully apply the extradition treaty.
But the mobsters went to Panama, where they were under the protection of General Noriega, who was in power.
I was living with my husband, and suddenly they told me, "You must leave the country now." I knew that a minister had died, a secretary of justice, which was a very complex situation. But why did I have to go? What was my situation? I was just 15 days away from giving birth to Manuela.
On May 6, 1984, the army entered for the first time Pablo Escobar's fortified compound, La Hacienda Nápoles en Doredon.
What's up?
11 military trucks have entered Nápoles.
Okay.
And they've been ordered to stay.
Fine. I can't wait to see how they cover the expenses for that.
On May 6, 1984, Pablo Escobar, Jorge Luis Ochoa, and Rodriguez Gacha tried to meet with former President Alfonso López Miguelsen, who is in Panama as an observer of the Panamanian elections.
The drug lords wanted to send the message that they had nothing to do with the assassination of the Secretary of Justice.
The drug lords admitted that they controlled 70 to 80% of cocaine production in Colombia and proposed the government an amnesty. The cartel offered the government of Belisario Betancourt to dismantle its laboratories, their withdrawal from the cocaine market, and to bring back their fortunes so they could help pay the foreign debt.
They were willing to turn themselves in. I told him that none of that could happen without the collaboration, acceptance, or acquiescence of the U.S. government and the DEA. And he agreed that it was necessary that the U.S. know of the existence of this arrangement.
I mean, how could you possibly, at that point, make peace with people who had just assassinated your justice minister? What kind of example would that have set for the country? It would have made anybody feel that they could get what they wanted.
We have to say that they were in talks with us looking for a possible arrangement, but all that fell apart because the Colombian intelligence agency and the gringos didn't accept.
Drugs are menacing our society. They're threatening our values and undercutting our institutions. They're killing our children. 37 federal agencies are working together in a vigorous national effort. And by next year, our spending for drug law enforcement will have more than tripled from its 1981 levels.
Betancourt's government rejected the offer and publicly refused any transaction with the drug lords.
There are incredible stories of 50 Colombian mobsters jogging in lycra suits in the morning hours along the avenues of Panama with 50 Mercedes-Benz limousines escorting them. So at some point, this all becomes a crazy mess. The DEA was there, the CIA, and then Noriega asks them, please, no more jogging on the avenues of Panama. No more jogging, get out. And Escobar goes to Nicaragua. He proposes to the Nicaraguans to the Sandinistas that they build a cocaine lab in Nicaragua. Escobar hears Ortega, who was the president of Nicaragua, and he interprets between the lines that Ortega was going to turn him in to the U.S. authorities. Escobar doesn't even finish listening to the interview with Ortega. He gets in a car, drives to the airport, and comes back to Colombia on his plane. When the Sandinistas come to capture him, he's gone.
The news is, and will continue to be for some time, the raid of the Palace of Justice.
Pablo Escobar helped finance the raid on the Palace of Justice. Why does he fund it? Because he wants to burn the files, all the cases against the extraditables, and to kill as many Supreme Court magistrates as possible so he wouldn't have to kill them on the streets.
The Ministry of Defense turned the tables by supplying a strong military presence.
The casualties include 12 magistrates, 1 administrative personnel, 6 police officers, and 1 member of the army.
For your children's sake, and yours, for Colombia. Denounce drug dealers. Wanted. Pablo Escobar Gaviria. Cooperate. Denounce. Inform.
He started appearing in wanted signs as the head of the world's most powerful drug cartel. He became the most wanted criminal, but despite all the operations, intelligence actions, and hellish pursuits, it was always we nearly caught him.
How he knew, how he found out, is all a mystery. On many opportunities, there were operations against Escobar. We knew where he was, but at the last minute, he managed to get away.
Get together a group of 4 or 5 guys. We'll instruct them to call those phone numbers on the TV with misleading information. That way, we'll keep them really busy. Yesterday, we called and said we were at a certain hotel, and they tore it down. We'll drive them crazy.
At that time, Pablo Escobar was a friend of the Medellin police.
Hello, what's up?
Masa Marquez has sent 350 to 400 men to Medellin. They're ready for a large operation. Tomorrow or the day after tomorrow.
Have the pilots let us know.
They'll tell us immediately. And they say they won't open fire.
But we will open fire.
Yes.
But don't shoot them. They'll look the other way.
Colonel Valdemar Franklin Quintero arrived in Medellin, an incorruptible man, an honest policeman.
I remember one time, returning from Nápoles. We were being chased. We were arrested. I was 7. My sister was still practically a newborn. They neglected to feed my baby sister. The police commander in charge was Valdemar Franklin Quintero. That event prompted a terrible rage from my father, who finally ordered his assassination. He would say, "Let them chase me, I'm the bandit, but don't touch my family. They're decent people, who have nothing to do with what I do."
The boss orders us to target Colonel Quintero with a car bomb. We gave it to a kid to detonate it. The kid sees a Mercedes 230 coming, sees a police escort, arms the device and detonates the bomb. We hear the bomb from a distance and go check in with the boss. We say, "Hey boss, it's done. Colonel Quintero is dead." The boss tells us, "Watch the news. You just killed the governor of Antioquia, Antonio Roldan Betancourt." The governor was a friend of the boss. He was close to Escobar politically, and with good money, he could have become president. But the boss didn't lose his cool. At that point, nothing could be done. The governor was already dead, and Escobar was a man of war.
Pablo, at that time, thought of himself as the chief of all criminal organizations in Colombia.
We were friends and partners in the fight against extradition with the Rodriguez-Oruela brothers. Pablo Escobar calls the Rodriguez-Oruelas, as we had run errands for them here in Medellin.
Hey, so what's new? All good? Tell me.
The black guy has been telling me for a while now that they want to push us out of there. Because we're supposedly invading the New York market, and they think they own the city. We'll see who turns out to be smarter and braver. That's what we're going to prove now.
Pablo tells him, if you're not with me, you're my enemy. You have 24 hours to think it over and make a decision. And then he hangs up.
Violence in Colombia claimed more victims last night. The massacre occurred in a luxurious estate in Candelaria near Cali. 19 people were killed and 10 more injured.
That was the beginning of the fight between the Cali and Medellin cartels.
We no longer fought one enemy, but two. The state and another cartel. Anyone from Cali who came here had to die. Anyone from Medellin who went there would get killed.
The leaders of the Cali cartel said they wouldn't accept such threats. And within 24 hours, they hired people to plant a bomb aimed at Escobar in his residence, the Monaco building.
The first car bomb in the history of Colombia exploded on January 13th, 1988, in the Monaco building in Medellin. My little sister, she was born in 1984. She was 4. I was born in 1977. I was 11. 700 kilograms of dynamite, which shattered glass 1 kilometer around the building. An explosion to erase us from the map. It's a miracle that we're still here talking.
The bombers were supposed to knock down the building's garage door and plant the bomb inside the garage in the hopes that it would knock down the building completely.
After that moment, my dad, any excuses he might have needed to use violence, he had. A single attack with a bomb on his family unleashed over 200 terrorist attacks.
The violence was mainly carried out by the Medellin cartel under the title of the Extraditables, a group of drug traffickers financed by all the cartels. They generated corruption within the state and terrorism.
It is unfair for people who commit a crime in the country to be judged in another one and sentenced for crimes that don't exist in Colombia.
The only thing they feared was being extradited.
Brother, we've decided that every peso we get will be used to burn rich people's houses, to eliminate politicians, as well as the military and police forces who mess with us, the judges that bother us, the journalists.
And he turns up protesting, saying we are the Extraditables, and we denounce the society for excluding us, for persecuting us, for treating us in unjust ways, for stigmatizing us, for not accepting our children in schools. It's not only an issue of police and judicial persecution, but they protest not having a place in society, being as rich as they are.
These motherfuckers chase us because we're alleged delinquents. They think that because I've been calm, I have no resources to fight. Those sons of bitches are confusing nobleness with weakness. I'll show those sons of bitches as soon as I wage a full-blown war.
Escobar was a very violent person, and as he became more powerful, he thought that he could defy the state.
This infamous character accomplished what no one had been able to do, to utterly soak the business of drug trafficking in so much blood that he turned it into narco-terrorism.
Escobar was killing judges, he was killing magistrates, journalists, policemen.
They turned it into a business of death and vengeance, of abuse and exploitation of power.
In the killing of State Attorney Carlos Hoyos, Escobar is singled out as the mastermind. He was never subpoenaed, even though they found a recording where he supposedly orders the murder of Hoyos. Specialized Judge Oscar Hernandez didn't consider the evidence.
The boss asked me to inform him why we were killing him right before his execution. I told him, Dr. Hoyos, we're going to kill you for betraying your country. He says, who the hell did I betray? I said, you betrayed yourself by receiving money from the DEA and from the mafia.
Y por autorizar las extradiciones de colombianos a los Estados Unidos de Norteamérica. Inmediatamente lo ejecutamos.
Anyone who got in his way, if they didn't take the money, well, they would get bullets, and they would get killed. Anyone who got in his way, if they didn't take the money, well, they would get bullets.
The only enemies are those that use terror and violence to silence the people of Colombia, to intimidate or assassinate its most important protagonists.
Luis Carlos Galan earns great visibility because he stands against Pablo Escobar and the drug traffickers, and he favors extradition.
The dark and criminal power of drug trafficking has reached our country. And since 1982, a year before Rodrigo Lara took office as Secretary of Justice, the new Liberal Party has been the only political force in Colombia to stand up to this terrible adversary of society, of institutional order.
Back then, politics was a public plaza activity, out in the streets, with the excitement of the people, of campaigning. People would stand in the plazas for 5, 6, 7 hours, waiting for my father. News arrived that they had taken him to Kennedy Hospital. We arrived and the doctor asked if we wanted to see him. He was next door on a stretcher. My mother and brothers went in. I didn't feel capable of going in to see him. In that moment, I couldn't do it. And later, so many people arrived at the hospital. You couldn't breathe.
If we keep killing politicians and burning their houses and waging war, they'll have no other choice. They'll beg us for peace talks. This way we settle with everyone and solve all of our problems. I see no other solution but to fight and put our hearts into this. If we're all going to die, we all die.
I wanted to talk at the funeral. I wrote my speech. At the end, I changed the final sentence, which was, always forward, not a step back, and whatever needs to be done will do. Which was the phrase that... I want to ask Cesar Gaviria, in whose hands we entrust my father's flags, to be the president Colombia wants and needs. Please save Colombia.
Always forward, not a step back. And whatever needs to be done, we'll do.
We faced a very difficult campaign because it was so dangerous, so threatening. We had to campaign in the middle of terrorist attacks.
The campaign was horrible. For starters, whoever replaced Galan, if he kept the position against drug trafficking, and Gaviria did keep it, became Escobar's main enemy and an enemy of the extraditables.
There's a national order from the extraditables. To anyone allied with Cesar Gaviria, the order is to fill them with bullets. Those who stand with Gaviria stand next to a dead man.
They blew up an Avianca plane targeting the campaign staff. We were scheduled on a trip to Cali, but they canceled a few of the morning events there, so the tour manager decided to change to a later flight. Escobar blew up that 7 a.m. flight.
We were talking about the plane. He said the plane was paid for. I have the money order for the payment. I'll deliver it. He'll have it in a half an hour.
The bomb was already on board. It had to go off. The Medellin cartel didn't mind blowing up an airplane. It was terrorism. We were trying to corner the Republic of Colombia. The bombing of the DAS security agency was the largest terrorist strike in the world. The bus didn't get inside the DAS. If it had, it would have wiped it off the planet.
A bus with a bomb on board entered this street at 7:15. 3 men came out of it. This is what was left 3 minutes later.
Around 1989 was one of the most grueling times for the nation of Colombia and the most beneficial for the mafia.
We basically lived in a permanent state of crisis. Public order was a huge problem.
It was a horrible way to live. I mean, there were days that there were 5 or 6 bombs going off in different parts, and people walking down the street would get killed.
Today at 6:30 a.m., a car loaded with dynamite blew up in front of the El Espectador newspaper building. El Espectador newspaper has become, over the last 10 years, a symbol of the crusade against drug trafficking. Today's attack further shows the audacity of the cartel heads.
Pablo Escobar understood the media very well, but he thought, wrongly, that he could break them.
For the owners of El Tiempo, we have a very, very, very big surprise. Tell them they can't even begin to imagine it. I'll tell them, and then you'll see whether they change their attitude. If they don't, you'll decide. That's all I can do. I don't own the newspaper.
At El Tiempo newspaper, where I worked, there was an anti-aircraft machine gun on the roof, as there was intelligence that they would crash a plane loaded with explosives.
In a climate of war in which many died but no one was captured, President Gaviria took office.
A group of very important national journalists was kidnapped with the purpose of repealing the possibility of extradition to the U.S.
We started to develop what at that time was a very controversial policy, a policy we called submission to justice. This policy, used in other countries of the world, such as the US and Italy, involves the reduction of sentences for confessed crimes for those that submit themselves voluntarily to justice, guaranteeing that they will be tried in their country of origin.
So tell me more or less what he said.
The president said they're considering a treatment that is less harsh for those who submit themselves to justice.
Okay, any side of them cozying up is good.
Back then, the longest prison sentence was 30 years. We got 7 off for turning ourselves in, 7 for confessing, 7 more for work and education.
It worked for a good number of them, but it didn't work for Escobar.
Escobar refused to turn himself in until extradition was revoked.
We were gambling the future of the country. My editorial column was very aggressive towards Escobar and the drug traffickers. It put me in the eye of the hurricane.
Last night, a group of 6 men with police badges kidnapped the chief editor of the El Tiempo newspaper, Francisco Santos.
I asked, whose hands am I in, the guerrillas or Pablo Escobar's? He had a Medellin accent, so I said, it's Escobar. Yes, Escobar, he said. I said, well, I'm done.
This flame represents Colombia's hope for peace. It will burn here in Plaza de Bolivar, in the country's capital, until the kidnapped have been set free. However, many expect it will be a long wait.
I never thought that I would get out of there alive. I received a letter written by him, saying that he regretted my situation, that his guys had orders to treat me well. But I should understand that in war, there are casualties, and he hoped I wouldn't be one of them. The only message they let me send was very clear, telling the president, do what you can to save our lives. Don't forget that the law and the Constitution come first.
It was a real battle to preserve democracy.
When he saw he had the votes in the assembly, I think he bought a few, other Colombians were sick of the violence. He let us go.
Are you doing okay?
Yes, of course.
Are you happy to be home?
One of the people who spoke with me, not one of the kidnappers, but someone different, told me that Escobar would turn himself in.
All the candidates, with very few exceptions, were in favor of banning extradition.
The extradition of Colombians by birth is forbidden.
The decision by the judge was expected by Escobar.
When extradition was done away with, you know, it was a huge victory for Pablo, and it was a big defeat for our efforts, you know, the United States.
The National Assembly's decision, the final vote count, total votes, 69. Yes, 51. No, 13. 5 abstentions.
This just in, Pablo Escobar has surrendered himself to authorities a few hours after extradition was revoked in the National Assembly.
Mr. President, what does it mean for Colombia, for the government?
It gives us great satisfaction to see how we are abandoning the path of narco-terrorism, how Escobar has surrendered to Colombian justice.
As a result of the policy of peace and strengthening of the justice system advanced by the president and his cabinet, I wish to serve all the years in prison deemed necessary to contribute in the strengthening of democracy in my beloved Colombia.
A helicopter transports Pablo Escobar to a very special prison, La Catedral.
Mr. Escobar's helicopter landed, and the whole security scheme fell apart because everyone turned to look at Mr. Pablo Escobar. In the middle of all that fantasy that he inspired, of all that evil, he was a legendary character.
With my surrender and submission to justice, I also want to pay tribute to my parents, to my irreplaceable and unmatched wife, to my pacifist son of 14 years, and my little toothless ballerina of 7 years, and to my whole family whom I so love. Pablo Escobar Gaviria, Envigado, Colombia, June 1991.
He was pale. You could see his fright, his fear, the nerves.
He swore to us, over his love for us, that he wouldn't let us down this time.
Pablo turns himself into jail so that his family could have peace. He couldn't handle the pressure on his family.
I think the prison deal at La Catedral was a sincere intention on my father's part after listening to the many and insistent demands from us. as his family, that he find a negotiated way out of all the trouble we were having.
When Pablo turned himself in at La Catedral, it was a day of mourning for all law enforcement people. I mean, I was sick. I was very disappointed that it happened.
What will the president's order be so that Pablo Escobar's surrender will be handled properly and he will be subject to the appropriate judicial process?
The conditions established by the lawyer representing Escobar were conditions referring exclusively to his security, not any other matter.
It was the boss who built La Catedral, the wall around it, and the electric fence. He had the power put in. He orchestrated it so the power switch was in his cell.
La Catedral became a place of luxuries, a place of excess, of parties, more than a prison. It seemed like one of our estates, which it actually was. The personal guards were a joke. You would get to La Catedral for a visit, and you saw my father's lifelong employees, now in uniform, in prison guard uniforms. It was a farce.
It was an effort to find a judicial solution. And obviously, having accepted some of those security conditions represented a challenge for the state that at some point we were unable to handle.
Escobar was no longer a drug trafficker and had become a great extortionist of his partners. His partners, with Escobar in jail, took certain liberties. They rebelled against him. So he'd call them to settle up and assassinate them. He generated a great divide within the mafia.
Pablo Escobar was in prison. The mistake that he made was when he started killing the Moncadas and the Galeano family members that he believed betrayed him.
They were no longer friends. They no longer funded us. They were closer to the Cali cartel than to us. The boss pondered the situation. He was a warrior, and warriors live in war. He made that hard decision because he always lived on the edge. There, in La Catedral prison, Galeano died of a gunshot. Otto killed him. I killed Kiko Moncada. We made a big bonfire and we burned the bodies all night long. The next day, the bones remained, which are difficult to burn. We crushed them with a sledgehammer and poured acid over them. So Kiko and Galeano disappeared. When the boss ordered me to kill Kiko, I followed the order, but I couldn't sleep that night. That day, I killed my second father. As a favor, I shot him in the head so he wouldn't suffer.
The government decides to transfer Escobar to another prison, to transfer him from Medellin to a garrison in Bogota.
The government sent 5 trucks filled with soldiers from the 4th Brigade to occupy the prison.
When they said the army was taking control of the prison, we went to Medellin. I got to Envigado, to La Catedral, about 8 p.m. It was fairly dark by then. Prison guards fell into formation and said everything was under control. There was Escobar. He greeted me. He stepped in front of me and said, "You can't leave. As of this moment, you are my hostage. If any military personnel gets in or you try to escape, I'll kill you."
If they get me out of here, it'll be to kill me. So I'd rather die fighting than hold up in undignified conditions.
My father feared something greater than a simple transfer. If they take you to Bogota, you're just one step away from a plane to the U.S.
They barricaded themselves in and kidnapped the Vice Minister of Justice and the Chief of Prisons.
They call a radio station in Colombia. Escobar describes how he is entrenched in a tunnel he had built himself in the prison and explains that he is running out of air. All this is transmitted live on the air. Later, we learned that when he made that call, he had left prison 3 hours earlier.
Calmly, he left through the door, the window, wherever. That led to a great political controversy. It was a clear failure of the state. No one could hide it.
After Pablo Escobar's escape, the government realized that it is a global laughingstock. It was solely its own fault. They don't want to capture Pablo alive. They want him dead.
That was a day of joy for us. I mean, the police and DEA celebrated because we were back on the hunt. The hunt was back on. So the game was back on.
We want our public force to search for Escobar, capture him, and return him to face our judicial system. When Escobar escaped, we created a search block, commanded by an army general and a high-ranking police official.
When he escaped, suddenly President Gaviria realized that, you know, this was very embarrassing for him, very embarrassing for all of Colombia. And he basically opened the doors and said, hey, you know, help us in any way you can.
I contacted the U.S. ambassador. I told him, we need your support. We need intelligence, technical assistance, and training. That's how the search block was formed.
They used their most advanced equipment in order to help us in the pursuit of Escobar.
During the first weeks in which the search block was active, while I was in command, he detonated 2 car bombs, killing 34 police officers and 2 political officials.
That motherfucker who we paid off for $1.5 million, he's the one heading every operation against us. That fucking son of a bitch must think I'm afraid of him because he's a policeman? I hope he's listening so he knows the kind of death awaiting him.
We'd listen to his conversations all the time.
Tell that fucking piece of shit I know his name. He's Colonel Martinez, and I won't forgive him for the rest of his fucking life. I'll plant bombs in his family's houses. I'll finish that motherfucker.
However, hearing Pablo Escobar say that, it was terrifying. There were threats that were usually fulfilled.
When Pablo escaped from jail, he became a public enemy once again. People that had ties with Escobar said, enough, we're going to stand up to this man.
I thought it was finally a vigilante group that said basically we had enough, we're going to go after Pablo. And I applauded them. You know, finally the Colombian people are waking up, somebody's doing something. But then I found out, you know, a couple of days later that, you know, who the Los Pepes really were.
Los Pepes, or persecuted by Pablo Escobar, through a public statement informed Escobar that they would strike back in case of any future attacks in the city.
From the president on down, the feeling was, we are all Los Pepes.
The Los Pepes, in essence, with the backing of the Cali cartel, started waging this war, started killing more people in the Medellin cartel that were still with Pablo and started eliminating all his support.
Los Pepes took responsibility for setting off car bombs near where Escobar's sister, mother, and brother-in-law live.
And along the way, they also started providing information and intelligence to the Colombian National Police and the DAS. So they, in a way, they became allies.
The Cali cartel grew bolder. They turned the police, the army, the DEA, and the DAS against us. The Cali cartel cornered us.
But you have to be careful. You cannot allow the criminal enterprises to become part of what you're doing.
Pablo Escobar had an army major on his security team. They started to find our hideouts. We would barely escape. The boss put 2 and 2 together. They found this hideout and this other one. Only the major knew them. The boss orders us to kidnap the major. We get him, torture him, and he confesses that he's snitching for the 4th Army Brigade in Medellin. The major always brought his wife to the hideouts. He tells us under torture of a military operation in a few days, and that his wife is going to reveal another of our hideouts. The boss had heard about a certain woman, a pregnant woman, who was revealing the hideouts. I get her phone number from the major, call her, and she agrees to meet us at a gas station. She arrived, and we killed her right there. As an act of humanity, we shot the baby to spare any further suffering. That was very tough.
The problem is, when you militarize the task of pursuing criminals, It's then that it becomes supremely bloody and savage and ends up in massacres and insane acts.
As they chipped away at his military arms and his financial means, he lost power. He began to realize that his family was far more vulnerable.
He was trying to desperately get his family out of the country.
When I learned that, after an intervention by the state prosecutor, Germany was going to give Escobar's family asylum, we had tense negotiations with the German government. We told them that for Colombia, it was a very complex problem, because if terrorism escalated, we would have to hold Germany as responsible.
This is Pablo Escobar, speaking from Medellin. Be advised that if the German government rejects my innocent family, I will retaliate against German citizens, tourists, news organizations, and German interests in Colombia.
Escobar was in a desperate situation. I mean, obviously, he could threaten German interests. But that threat blew over quickly. And so he continued his activities, making terrorist attacks where he could. Not where he wanted to, only where he could. We brought the Escobar family to a place where we could, effectively, offer them absolute security.
Military and security operations have increased in the center of Bogota, where the Tequendama residences are located, where the wife and children of the former head of the Medellin cartel are staying.
The state says it was protecting us, but they were doing intelligence work on us. We were part of a trap to hunt down my father. There was no protection. They can't claim they protected us when people around us disappeared magically. Your teachers, the help, your friends, everyone.
I am Pablo's brother speaking on behalf of Pablo. He's offended because they're bothering his family. Don't mess with his family. Whoever touches them or bothers them is going to be in trouble. You better listen to me.
For all of us living in the house, there were rewards being offered. There was a $4 million bounty on my head.
He was trying to desperately get his family out of the country. And we were blocking every attempt that the family made. Pablo was becoming more vulnerable every day. He was basically alone. In other words, it was just a matter of time.
All right, well, in any case, take care. You know how much we all need you.
I'm in a cave. Rest assured that I'm very, very safe. The worst is past.
In order to help his family, he thought of resurrendering himself, and he asked for protection by the United Nations.
He even tried using some well-known journalists to try to establish conditions for his new surrender.
Hello?
Maria Isabel, how are you?
Pablo Escobar? I want to ask you a favor on behalf of the country.
Yes.
Why don't we do something so you can turn yourself in?
Look, Maria Isabel, I'm open to that. I have the best will in this case. I chose to leave prison, but it was the last thing I would have wanted to do in my life. I did it because they were going to kill me. They went in firing their weapons.
We will find a way to talk to the president. Do you want me to call the president or not?
Convey to the president that my intention is to go back to a prison other than Envigado's.
Yes?
That I accept a prison other than Envigado's, but I need to know what the security conditions are.
How do we contact you?
What's that?
How do we contact you?
I'll call you. I have no problem.
So the journalists call me. But the new surrender had conditions that meant, again, we would be giving him certain privileges for his security, which was unthinkable.
The president, with the entire world watching, cannot accept your conditions. Furthermore, I'll tell you something worse. They've agreed to have the gringos help look for you.
I'll cooperate. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, but I'm not afraid of the gringos either.
We've done all of this so you're not extradited. So much blood has been shed so you won't be extradited, and you're not afraid?
Had he turned himself in, we would have accepted him. But it's clear that he never planned on surrendering, and he always thought of sticking to his principles to destroy the state.
They'll never fucking capture me, and I'll kill each and every one of them from the jungle. In the long run, they're the ones who are going to lose.
Evidently, this was a combat situation. The instructions were very clear: capture or kill.
One day, Escobar made a mistake. He called his family directly. At that moment, due to the length of the call and data triangulation, it was possible for us to pinpoint his exact location.
Did you get the prosecutor's office to protect you? How was that achieved?
Yes, take it easy.
Did you speak to someone in the prosecutor's office to assist in relocating you abroad? Let's stop there. I'll call you back, okay?
He says he'll call me back. He didn't. A reporter calls me 10 minutes later and tells me Pablo Escobar is dead. Of course, I reacted violently and said, "We don't want to talk right now. Whoever killed him, I'll kill them all, those sons of bitches. I'll kill those motherfuckers myself." I retracted my threats exactly 10 minutes after making them. I started to think, my God, I'm on my way to living what I always criticized my father for, the way he lived and how bad it was for him. My proposal to continue with the violence and to turn into Escobar 2.0 wasn't going to bring him back alive. I want to, personally, make very clear that I will not avenge my father's death, because now the only thing that worries me is the future of my long-suffering family.
Pablo Escobar was a man who loved his family. His children, Manuela and Juan Pablo, and Mrs. Tata. He died for them. I thought he was immortal. When I saw the images of him on that roof, chubby and bearded, that was him. My soul cried.
The mob at his funeral, it was mind-boggling. You know, it's just everybody wanted to touch his casket. People crying all over the place. I mean, this guy was a monster.